$28.9 million. That is less than what the government wanted. The government wanted 29.6. They gave $28.9 million. And further on the same day, billed the government, the Ministry of Finance and Planning, in the sum of $295,902,000. 10 times the amount that then give the government. 10 times.
Excuse Mr. Chucks, can you put it as US or JA, please?
That is United States dollars.
So who them time was Omar would have made that who made the decision them time that situation?
Omar Davis. And guess who was one of his BG, guess who was one of his chief advisors?
No, what say it? You say it then, God.
Mark Jefferson Golding. G in a DB&G is for Golding.
We know that much.
So this is why I asked you to read it, because I want to put it in terms where people can relate to what was going on and how they were stripping Jamaica. They were robbing the resources of Jamaica using legal means. Not just because something is legal, it is not unethical. Yeah? Slavery was legal. There were laws put in place as to how slavery was supposed to operate. It is no different from we have laws that facilitate how the government at the time, at the day, going through a crisis, can transfer the funds of Jamaica to entities that really become successful, while the people of Jamaica pay back this debt and doesn't benefit from it, no way, shape, or form. At that period, we have here in Jamaica, where our schools were running down. At the same time, when these transfer was being going on 10 times the amount to individuals connected to cronyism, we had our police force running down, police dropping through the floor, no cars to respond to situation where people need institutions to serve them. This led to the high crime rate because there was no good, effective policing going on. So when, at the time, when the first time murder showed its face at either 500, moving from 400, we had no money in place to put in the police force to counteract these things. Because what we were doing, we were handing over the money, borrowing at high interest rate, making these people wealthy that are politically connected to party. We had our kids.
Let me read the second part of that now, which this part I don't get, VG.
Before you do that, Chuck,
yeah.
I have a question I want to ask.
Yeah, I have a question too.
Right. You stated earlier, I don't know if it was an error or it is actually in the document, that it was an 120-year deal.
Not year, days, not year. 120 days.
4 months.
It is 4 months.
Yes.
Secondly, yeah. I heard VG mention when you said when you asked if he knew who was the advisor, and him said when you told him, he said, "Me know, sir, that I go say." Could you state whether?
No, I didn't know that. I said I didn't know that already. Sorry, but I know that already, man.
Okay. And so, do you still maintain that this man means Jamaica good? The same man was talking about low-income housing, yet and how the government not building it, yet he was able to invest in Bahamas for some low-income houses while building luxury apartment here in Jamaica valued at $150 million.
And Chuck, after that you read what I just sent to you. After you finish everything, you just read it.
Go ahead, Vegas.
No, my question.
Vegas said he had a question. Sorry.
So Mr. Chuck, yeah, so when you read that now, then give the government, 29 point something, or 28 point something, right?
Yeah, 28
million US, right? And then get back over 200,000, right?
And then get back 295,902,000.
I am asking. Vegas. Just a minute. May I ask you, please? When I call the figure, name US at the end of it, please.
Thank you, Marlo. These are US dollars, United States dollars.
You know,
Can you explain why they got so much returns?
The OCG don't put that how the return, but they don't put how the deal was negotiated, because the entire deal was what they call unsolicited. So it wasn't put to tender, so the government don't know if they were getting value for money or anything like that. So
there's nothing here to sell, we say. Is a certain amount of interest them get on it or not?
Exactly, it's not there to
it just vague.
It just vague.
Most likely in those cases, short-term loans like those, the interest rates are very high, and in that period, the interest rate may have been maybe 40-30%. Plus, they put in their user fees and stuff.
So one of the bright sparks, I'm like winning them. How much percent that?
1,000%, sir. I calculated in my head already. 1,000% interest.
You don't see it for the same charge with it for the judge. I see you. Church, you know.
Here's the kicker now. BG. Remember, BG, that the government asked for this money because they did have a shortfall in the budget. What is it to this now? The OCG also conclude. By the way, BG, OCG is the Office of the Contractor General. The OCG also concluded that the government of Jamaica experienced a shortfall in collection of debts relating to FinSac transaction. As such, in order to repay the money which has been provided by BB&J in 2005 for the short-term financing, the government of Jamaica has to go to the Capital and Credit Merchant Bank and take a loan.
And Chuck, you must let him know that the OCG is now a part, it's folded into the IC. The IC. Yeah, the very IC that they are talking about, the Prime Minister. It was the same people where investigate the Darren Bunting and Golden. But one of the things we have...
But not only that, Amalo, I think what we need to point out and not gloss over it, and that is why when we're having this discussion, we must go as slowly as possible. We need to let the Jamaican people understand that why we could not pay our bills at the time, why teachers couldn't get increases, police station and all of these things were affected, is because we had to become indebted in order to clear another debt. And it was done by a man who claimed to be a Jamaican, who lives here, who wants to be Prime Minister of this country, right? He caused us to become indebted.
And that is why I asked Chuck to read it over, because what we want to do is to put on ground what was happening on the ground while these things were happening, so the people can relate as to why their life was the way it was, while these Mark Golden, Darren Bunting, were getting filthy rich, wealthy, where he could come to Jamaica and tell Jamaica, me done make mine already. Yeah? Why it was.
What was going on? Why Jamaica got him FinSac? Okay, sorry. All right.
No, man, we can answer that. VG. Don't retract the statement, man.
No, it was FinSac. I was asking why the loan. Why they need the loan at that time so bad? What did happen?
Yeah, but let us not put FinSac in a vacuum. What created FinSac? That is where we need to go to.
Yeah, go on.
Why was FinSac created? The false policies of the then government.
What you will hear from Hugh Richardson is that FinSac was a good thing. FinSac was the solution. FinSac was the solution. FinSac was the culmination of a series of government policies that led to the collapse.
No, FinSac came after Chuck. The policies that led to the...
No, Amalo, what Chuck is saying is that the high interest rate policies that were created
that
actually caused FinSac.
Those came before FinSac. FinSac came after.
Right, and that's what Chuck is saying.
What I want, hold on, before we move to FinSac, because FinSac are going to take up the whole time, I want Chuck to read how much money was collected, how many taxes were collected for the financial year 2004 to 2005, so that we can know that these people deliberately did what they did.
In the fiscal year 24-25, the government of Jamaica collected approximately 155.63 billion in tax revenue.
How much US that?
155.63 100, right? I don't know. My head no good another match there. 100.
Just move it. I think, yep, a decimal place, Mr. Vegas.
The figure encompasses a various source, including general consumption.
No, you'd have to check the rate at that time.
Aye. Great,
It's about 96.
Great.
If you move a decimal place down, I think you'll be closer to the actual figure.
The total revenues and grant for the same period amounting to 173.3 billion, which include non-tax revenue of 9.7 billion, backside levy 2.35 billion, capital revenue 1.86 billion, grants 4.3 billion.
You know, sir. I hear somebody. What name? Some mood. I think my last name was some. What Bridget? What you call? What Bridget? What man? Call in and I wanted to talk show them TikTok thing. And say, you know, eh?
It was an hello neighbor, yeah.
Yeah. I think it was saying we talk about GDP and all this tax and this, and the regular man will sit down. Don't really understand that part, but he understands things there for go by tomorrow. How you chat to a regular man?
All right. Good point, VJ. Good point.
Yes, sir.
But the problem of what that man have to ask himself is why. There's a reason about the man just there, so you know.
He didn't ask himself nothing, he just try to live. And I try
to VJ, we now have to give people the information that says, listen to me. Yeah. Jamaica is at a place now where we never get here overnight, and we won't get from under this unless we put in the work. So now we always use the analogy. We say the mango right now, Jamaica, the mango, with sunburn. It look pretty, but I just sunburn, ripe yet.
Ripe yet, okay.
If you turn it over to the PNP, they are going to pick that mango.